Hello YouTube viewer, welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh! Learning series. This video is going to fully cover the normal and effect monster cards. If you want information pertaining to the other monster cards like Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum, and Link monsters, then be sure to watch my part 4 video in this learning series as well. Also, there are many things that I'll be going over in this video for monster cards that do pertain to other monster cards that I'll be covering later on, so keep that in mind. Okay then, let's get to that introduction. And starting out, I'll be going over the normal monster cards. These are the yellow bordered cards, like this. And next, I'll be showing you an example of a real normal monster card right here. This card, called Sorcerer, is a dinosaur-type monster. There are over 20 monster types in this game, and there are many card effects in this game that require your monster cards to be of a certain type, like this one. This card also has the Earth attribute. There are currently 7 monster attributes in this game, and just like monster types, there are many card effects that require your monster card to be of a certain attribute. There are also card effects that require both a monster type and attribute to be of a certain kind or kinds. There are even card effects that will require that your monster cards are of these certain kinds, along with if they are a normal, effect, fusion, ritual, synchro, Xyz, pendulum, or a link card. Here is a picture list of all the attributes currently in this game. These attributes are dark, light, earth, fire, wind, water, and divine. The divine attribute here is only on the god cards, which are now legal cards in this game, and the cards associated with the god cards, like Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode, and Immortal Phoenix. And now back to the Sorcerer card to explain more. Do you see these orange stars here under the name field? These indicate the level of the monster. But before I can explain what levels are for, I need to explain how to summon monsters in this game. So let's do that right now. And next, I'll be showing the playing field here again. And now let's zoom on to your side of the field. And this part of the field is the main monster zone, where your normal, effect, and ritual monsters can be summoned to. Pendulum monsters can be summoned here too, if they are not in your extra deck. But let's just focus on the normal summon for right now. A normal summon is when you place a monster with a level of 4 or lower on your main monster zone. That card will be placed face up vertically like this. You can only perform one normal summon each turn unless you use a card effect that modifies such rules, like the card Double Summon. To summon a monster with a level higher than 4, I'd like to show you my chart here as I explain it. A tribute summon involves sending a monster you select on the field to the graveyard in order to summon a monster with a level higher than 4. You would also send 2 monsters on your field to the graveyard to summon a monster with a level of 7 or higher. Let me show you an example of both. I'm gonna place Sorcerer here in the main monster zone. And let's say it was summoned there on my last turn. So I now have another normal summon I can use. I also have this card in my hand right now, Frostosaurus, which I drew from my deck. This card is a level 6 monster, so I need to tribute 1 monster on the field to summon it. So for starters, I'll be sending my Sorcerer on the field to the graveyard to tribute summon the Frostosaurus I have in my hand to the field. And that's how you perform a tribute summon. For the level 7 and higher monsters, just do the same thing I did here, except you'll send 2 monsters to the graveyard for the summon. There's just one more thing to go over on the normal monster card. So let's go back to that Sorcerer card again. Take a look at the bottom of the card, and you'll see the abbreviations for attack and defense with a number after them. As you can see, this card has an attack of 1900 and a defense of 500. Okay, you already know that, but what do these values mean? So let's take a look at the field again, with this card back on the main monster zone. Remember earlier when I said the vertical positioning of monster cards means they're in attack position? Well, you need to have your card in attack position in order for it to battle your opponent's monster cards. I'll have more on these gameplay mechanics in my Part 5 video, which will fully explain the gameplay mechanics of the game. There is another way to normal summon your cards on the field in a different orientation, and this is called a set. When placing the card from your hand on the field, a set refers to placing the card face down in defense position. The defense position refers to the card being placed horizontally. Your face down monsters on the field can only be in the horizontal position. Be careful when you're placing your monsters in a set, since you don't want to reveal to your opponent what your face down card is. Whenever you do a set of a monster on the field, this also uses your normal summon and vice versa. Every time you do a normal summon set of a monster, you cannot change its battle position until it's your turn again, and then you can only change its battle position once per turn. You can flip your monster cards face up on the field, but you cannot flip them face down without using another card's effect to do that. Whenever you flip up a face down monster on the field during your main phases, that monster is always orientated in the attack position. If your opponent attacks your face down monster in the battle phase, that monster is flipped face up but kept in the defense position. I'll have more on the game mechanics for the battle phase in my Part 5 video. Okay, I'm now going to be going over the effect monster cards. There are 6 different types of effects in this game, and they are called Continuous, Flip, Ignition, Quick Effect, Trigger, Condition, and Summoning. Here's an example of the Continuous Effect monster, Jinzo. What this effect means is that it continues to work as long as the monster stays face up on the field. What this means is that you can use card effects like Book of Moon to flip these cards face down to turn off the effect of that monster. And the next monster effect that I'll be going over is the Flip effect. Flip effect monsters always begin their text effect with the word flip in all caps. The example I'm using here is Raiko, Lightsworn Hunter. This card actually has 2 effects. You target one card on the field and destroy that target. Then you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. There are cards in this game that act like flip effect monsters, but they aren't true flip effect monsters. What I mean by that is they don't have the word flip in all caps as the first word, but they have an effect that explains what happens when they get flipped face up. For this, I'll be using 2 examples, Marshmallon and Guardian Sphinx. Marshmallon explains that if your opponent attacks this face-down monster, that they would take 1000 in damage. Whenever your opponent attacks a face-down monster, it gets flipped face up. So it kinda plays like a flip effect monster, but you'll notice the word flip isn't on the card. This is because if you tried manually flipping this card face up during your main phases, no effects from this card would go off. Guardian Sphinx explains that when this card is flipped summoned, return all monsters your opponent controls to the hand. And just like Marshmallon, there is no flip as the first word. So this card's effect only happens when you flip it up yourself. That also means your opponent attacking this face-down monster would not activate this effect, since that doesn't count as a flipped summon. And the next monster effect that I'll be going over is Ignition. And I'll be using this card for the example, Breaker, the Magical Warrior. While this card has a couple other effects on it, the only one I'm concentrating on is its Ignition effect, which reads, by removing one spell counter from this card, destroy one spell or trap card on the field. Ignition effects are effects that you need to manually activate. They can even be in the graveyard, like the card AD Changer. And the next monster effect that I'll be going over is the Quick effect. And the monster card that I'll be using for this example is DD Crow. And this card's effect reads, during either player's turn, you can discard this card from your hand to the graveyard to target one card in your opponent's graveyard. Banish that target. Quick effects are effects that can be activated during either player's turn, in the same way an Ignition monster gets activated. By that I mean they get activated manually. And next up is the Conditional Effects. You'll usually find these effects on cards mixed in with other effect types. Conditional effects are effects that are activated when those certain things happen in the text that says it. And for my example card here, I'll be using Chaos Sorcerer. The last line on this card reads, "This card cannot attack during the turn you activate this effect." So depending on what happens, you won't be able to attack with this card with that effect. And the last monster effect that I'll be covering is Summons. I'll be keeping Chaos Sorcerer out for this example, since he has a really good one for this. The card, Chaos Sorcerer, has a total of 4 monster effects, which are 2 summon effects, 1 ignition effect, and 1 condition effect. The 2 summon effects are, cannot be normal summoned or set, and must be first special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard. Alright then, that's everything there is on your basic monster cards, until I get to the more special ones, such as Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Link, and Pendulum in my Part 4 video. In my next video, I'll be covering spell and trap cards in full detail, which is Part 3 in this series. If you enjoyed this video and found it informational, please give me a like on here and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.